So welcome to episode 180 episodes of Gallifreypiratradio. I'm your host, Davey Beauchamp, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Drew Meyer.
And wow, I'll say this, it is strange being back in this building, filming an episode of GPR with you.
Well, for those of you who are listening to the audio portion of this, we're back at the Lexington Library, where Davey hasn't been in about 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months.
So there you go. So for those of you watching the video, hi. It's a blank background in the background, but for the rest of us, it's nice to have Davey back in for a short visit.
Yeah, it's strange. So, I have a really cool piece of noise.
Yeah, noise. It's good. Just remember, when you do this, that'll pick that up.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I know, I talk with my hands. That way they get the feeling of me talking with my hands.
It's just like, what is it? For those of you in audio, we are not dragging our faces repeatedly against any surfaces, just in case you're wondering about that.
Guess whose birthday it is Monday?
The Pope's.
No.
Happy the Squirrel.
No.
Stephen Moffat's.
No.
Did I already say the Pope?
You did.
Whose birthday is it on Monday?
Well, what's cool about this birthday is it shares sort of a birthday with me because we're both April babies, which is exciting.
You're a baby.
Peter Davison.
Okay, Peter Davison's birthday is on Monday.
And the cool thing about Peter Davison's birthday being on Monday, because this should be going out before Monday, Big Finish is doing a huge sale on his audio stories.
Very cool.
Especially the box set in which they brought Adric back.
Cool.
So I will be getting that shortly.
Oh, good.
As in, like, after this episode is done filming, I will be purchasing that.
Good. That's great. And I'm looking forward to listening to that. Maybe we could do a review of that one in a future episode.
But yes, that is kind of cool. I did not realize we were both April births.
Cool. Neat.
Yes.
Congratulations, man. That must make you really happy.
It does. I also found out that Todd McCaffrey is a day away from me. He's the 27th, I believe, or 25th, I can't remember. And then, sadly, Sir Terry Pratchett was, I believe, the 28th. So I have a lot of really cool birthdays in my month that I didn't realize I had.
In your month, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Cool.
Yes.
I saw Todd's name on a Doctor Who anthology fairly recently. That was kind of cool.
Really?
From back in the 90s, that him and Keith DeCandidio. Keith, I apologize, I can't remember how to spell your last name. But anyway, over at the Regeneration Convention,
cool.
There were a couple of books, and I was like scanning around people I knew, and I was like, Todd, that's cool.
I'm going to have to pick one of those up just to get
They are hard, just to let you know. I think Keith might actually have to be the last person who had extra copies, and they may have sold out. But, good luck to you, because that certainly is something I would want to hold on to.
Oh, yeah.
In other Doctor Who news, our friends at Doctor Who Legacy has, a couple of weeks ago, launched the Bigger on the Inside edition, which is very neat. I think we talked about the preview of that on our last show. We did actually launched. Have you got a chance to play?
No.
I have. It's really fun. It's really neat to see pixel versions of all the Doctors and the enemies, especially the Clockwork people from the Girl in the Fireplace.
Oh, cool.
Really good in pixel.
That's awesome.
Also, in Big Finish, you got me started on something else. Doctor Who Legacy news, we've got Donna Noble.
And I think that came out, today or yesterday? They announced
They announced it yesterday. As far as the launching, it hasn't happened yet.
No, that's the big mystery. They haven't said when that's actually happening, but it's coming.
We also know that Donna Noble is not the only person. Catherine Tate is not the only actress to have signed on to her likeness. They haven't shared any details with us. Should be interesting to find out.
Well, I guess it's time to get Doctor Who Legacy back on the show, like we were supposed to months ago during Series 8.
Yeah.
But because of the move and everything, things got just all mangled and messed up. But now that I'm situated with interwebs and have recording space, yes, it's time for me to contact Lee and Doctor Who Legacy about coming back on the show, especially since we're getting so close to the 4th anniversary of the show.
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
Speaking of anniversaries, for the 10th anniversary, Doctor Who magazine has 4 different covers. One of each for each of the canon doctors that have appeared on the program since then, or at least new Who doctors who have shown up since then. So that's pretty cool.
But what about more?
So technically, and that's the reason I said the new Who doctors, I guess you could argue that since he appeared since 1996, he's a New Who Doctor, but then you would just have to get into this conversation with Doctor Who nerds about who is new and who is not, and then just spirals into an endless loop of hell. So, there you go. Listen has been nominated for a Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation in Short Form category.
Which is exciting.
Yeah. I guess.
I'm actually sort of trying to stay away from the Hugos this year with all the drama circling it, and I'm just like, when did our fandom, and I'm not talking about Doctor Who fandom, I'm talking about all fandom, become so freaking political? I know there's always been an overtone of politics with any award or anything like this big, but it just seems to be getting so much worse lately.
I didn't even know that the Hugos were voted on until about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Hello, what do I know or care about it? Usually when something says it's Hugo Award winning, it means it's good. I'll read it or listen to it. Or watch it. How it came to be voted on never even crossed my mind. Never been a part of something that was going to head in that direction. So, speaking of controversy, raise your hand if you've ever illegally downloaded Doctor Who. Don't raise your hand. It doesn't matter, we can't see you through this camera because that doesn't work anyway. But if you want to legally download Doctor Who via BitTorrent, the BBC, being clever chaps, has offered the Doctor Who legal BitTorrent, that's probably not its official name, package for $12.
Yeah.
You can get a whole bunch of episodes and just download them. So have the episodes, don't worry about having a space to keep it. And if Netflix ever crashes, you will have these downloaded, right?
Yeah, and I'm still waiting for the BBC online service to begin. It has not started yet.
Yeah.
Which we're still waiting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it just, there's been some rumblings again, but I'm not going to go into that at all.
Okay.
But there have been some rumblings again.
Rumblings. We will bring you more coverage as the rumblings commence in the future.
Or until there's actually something a bit more concrete.
But if you don't have the episodes already and you want to take advantage of this legal BitTorrent, you can get Rose, the Empty Child, Dr. Dance's two-parter, Girl in the Fireplace, Blink, the End of Time two-parter, for some reason. The Vampires of Venice, which I think is an interesting one they threw up on there. The Doctor's Wife, The Rings of Akhenaten, The Day of the Doctor 50th Anniversary Special, and of course the Hugo-nominated Listen.
The only thing, honestly, I think that's missing on there, which I would have included, is 11th Hour.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that would be a good one. Well, maybe they are going to have a second package and throw some other ones on there. It's certainly a Stephen Moffat heavy package, but it makes sense. There's, so.
Except the End of Time.
Yeah. Well, technically, he wrote 290 seconds of it?
Yeah, it's not much.
I mean, hey, since Stephen Moffat's been taking co-credit for stories for Series 8, then,
Now, I want to say this next one, because I was so excited.
Please go for it.
Because it got renewed before it was even up.
It got renewed.
Oh,
I see what you're saying.
It got renewed before it was even up because we reported the last time it got up. And what we're talking about is Big Finish has had their license extended to 2020 for doing Doctor Who audios, which is it's phenomenal news. I think it's going to open up the potential for more New Who continuity-based episodes.
Yeah, well, with the announcement that we're getting our Gemma Redgrave run unit stories,
yes,
which is kind of our first foray into New Who audio, aside from the 50th anniversary specials, sort of.
Because those were more like 2 cast member type things.
Right. We're talking about full cast audios.
Exactly, yeah.
So that means that, that potential is there. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And just to let everybody know, I tried to pre-order a bunch of stuff via Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get a single one. Eventually, all my orders were canceled. So if you do want to pre-order anything from Big Finish Audio, at least here with Amazon.com, the US side, I probably tried pre-ordering 10 different episodes and basically in the end didn't get a single one.
So most likely go to the actual Big Finish website go through them.
And you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Just a heads up, because I was very disappointed in Amazon on that, because I think this is the first time Amazon has really ever let me down on anything. So just so you avoid the annoyance of waiting until they finally cancel stuff, go straight through Big Finish for any of the audio stuff.
And that's, of course, the best thing to do anyway, because Big Finish, you're paying them directly, they get more of a cut from it.
Yes.
And the advantage is, too, that the moment they release it, you're going to get the digital format of it, unless, of course, you're just getting the physical copy.
Unless, of course, it's light at the end, which crashed the entire thing.
Yes. Well, they sometimes don't realize how big of fans there are and how many of us there are.
Yes.
They understand. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here.
And the other Big Finish audio news is the new 8th Doctor series. The
Doom Coalition.
Doom Coalition, sorry, I just blanked there.
Yeah.
Because I still haven't listened to 3 and 4 of Dark Eyes.
I haven't listened to 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Dark Eyes. I just finished Series 4, and I've been going back to the main back catalog and listening to those, and the couple missing seasons. But I'm looking forward to jumping back in with some of the Gone stuff.
Very excited.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read anything other than Doom Coalition is coming out. I didn't want to get any information.
Oh yeah, no,
I didn't want to inform anything that happens to Dark Eyes. So.
That's all I know is that Doom Coalition's coming out.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are coming out, Titan Comics has released both of the trades for the 10th and 11th Doctors. So the first trades came out like last week.
Okay, so I was by Books A Million and I saw the 2 hardbacks. They look really nice. I was like,
cool.
It's like, it's about time for us to actually read those and actually review those.
Yeah, I think we reviewed the first issues of each one.
Yeah.
I honestly probably have the loose comics for up to 4, but there's something about having a trade in hand where I can actually let other people borrow it.
I love the fact that they're hardbacks.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, that's what I saw. They were hardback. I was like, wow. Now there might also be a paperback version. I've only seen the hardback so far, and I love the way a hardback sits on the shelf.
It's true. It's very nice, and it's always one of those great things you can take to a convention and get signed.
Yes.
So, I think that's a bit for a lot of the news. What we're going to be talking about next is some casting and titles for the upcoming Series 9. So, if you don't want to be spoiled on those, and we're certainly not forcing these upon you, but know that these are officially released by the BBC, so this is out there in the public.
Yeah, these were press releases, not anything they were trying to hide.
You can either skip forward about 1 minute or so on the audio or on the video, and then we'll continue with our review of the classic episode Dalek. But until then, so spoilers about to happen in 3, 2, 1. Okay, casting news has happened. Maisie Williams I know she's done other things other than Game of Thrones, but come on, let's face it. We're all thinking the same things. Arya Stark is going to be on Doctor Who. That's pretty cool.
And here's my thing. She better be an alien. Because if you look at her face, she looks like an alien. And that is not an insult, but it would be an insult if they do not use her in that capacity. She would make a brilliant alien. We've had so many human companions, allies lately. It'd be great to get a new alien race from her.
I agree. I think that would be really cool. They haven't, BBC hasn't said anything about who she's going to be, what her name is going to be, her character is, if she's going to be a good guy or a bad guy.
Right. I mean, I'm hoping alien. That's all I care about. I want an alien.
Sure.
But they did give a little bit about the episode, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Do we know which episode it's going to be?
We don't know what episode it's going to be, but we know a little bit about the episode.
Okay, I haven't read that far, so I'm trying to avoid the spoilers. The other thing is we have 2 titles for episodes that are going to be coming back, and the authors of those episodes. So we're going to have The Girl Who Died, which is going to be co-written by Jamie Matheson from Flatline and Mummy on the Orient Express, and Stephen Moffat. So they're doing that one. And then the next episode that's been released is The Woman Who Lived by Catherine Tregonnan, who's written a bunch of stuff for Torchwood.
Yeah.
So this is our first female writer for Doctor Who in a number of years, which is pretty awesome. Now, speculation time, is this a 2-parter?
A lot of people wonder, and actually a lot of people are wondering if it isn't tied to who we just mentioned is going to be on the show.
Yeah, well, considering that we're starting Series 9 with a 2-parter, it'll be kind of interesting to have 2 2-parters. I gotta say, personally, I'm kind of excited to have, we know we had a finale at the end, but it's not the same. I like a nice mid or early season 2-parter.
I like it mixed.
A couple years.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
No.
Okay, so that's the news. Welcome back for those of you who skipped it. I doubt anyone actually skipped it, but if you did, welcome back. So it's been a long time since we've recorded, probably been about a month or so. I know that some of the episodes have been coming out.
Yes.
We recorded 2 or 3 at a time to go along with that.
Yes.
One of the things is without Newton being on, so I had to go back to the back catalog and
all the way back
and review some earlier episodes. And since the furthest we could go back,
the furthest we could actually go back, because we've already done An Unearthly Child, is Daleks, or AKA the Mutants.
AKA the Mutants, AKA the Dead Planet, AKA the... Boy, there's a lot of different names on this.
I was
reading the history of this, and I didn't realize, because in some of my older Doctor Who guides from the 70s, it says the Mutants, and I understand, because that was one of the episode titles, which of course they had to change when the Pertwee episode, The Mutants, came out.
Yeah.
It seems like the Daleks would be the really most appropriate way, since this is what launched Dalek Mania.
Which honestly, I did not realize until, I've talked about it in other episodes, I didn't realize until much further into my loving of Doctor Who, I mean, I think grad school-wise almost, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, that the Daleks were the second story.
Mm-hmm.
I never realized they had started so early on in the history of Doctor Who and the canon of it all.
Well, if you've watched An Adventure in Space and Time, you know that Sidney Newman said no bug-eyed aliens.
Exactly,
bug-eyed monsters,
yes.
BEMs, and of course, what do you do? Second story out, we bring the Daleks, who technically, I guess, have an eye, but we don't get to see that until much later.
And I think they convinced them that they were more like robots than they were aliens or monsters.
Well, I think it's kind of fascinating about this episode. Is how much the Daleks have changed. And anyone who's ever listened to or seen this show before knows I really dislike the Daleks. If you offer me up a story and it has the Daleks in it, I may turn it down. I don't find them that interesting. I find them overly repetitive. And the few Dalek stories I do like is when something different is done with them.
Yeah.
Of course, the exception to that rule being Evolution of the Daleks, which was garbage. But that being said,
and it's also on that same level, it's sad that 2 of the really interesting episodes we don't even have.
That's true.
With the second Doctor,
Power
and Evil, because audio-wise, they sound phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the few stills that we have, it's really sad that we don't have those episodes, because I really think they were high points for the Daleks, being used in stories, and with Evil, that was supposed to be their last appearance forever.
Yeah, it ended up being something like, I don't remember how many years it was.
Did Pertwee ever face the Daleks?
He did, yeah. Yeah, in several episodes.
Oh, that's right, yeah, because one of the few Pertwees I remember watching as a kid was the one with the maze, the other fingers charm. Yeah, that's right, that's a Dalek one.
But I think it was something like 6 or 7 years between those Dalek stories. And that's because the creator of the Daleks and the writer of this episode, the writing creator of the Daleks, the conceptual creator of the Daleks, at least from that standpoint, Terry Nation, was attempting to squeeze as much money as possible from the Dalek franchise and was keeping the Daleks fairly close to the chest, hoping to give them their own series, their own movies, maybe bring them over to the United States.
Yeah.
So I got to watch Doctor Who and the Daleks, the Rift Tracks version, fairly recently. Very funny. Hadn't seen that one before. I thought that was really neat. But going back and watching a 7-parter about the Daleks is, I gotta say, I'd only seen it one time prior to. There's a lot of trepidation going into revisiting the Daleks.
I think there are only 3 Daleks actually in this episode.
I think they only build 3 Daleks.
Yeah, I think they only have 3 builds.
There's some backdrop Daleks and maybe some inflatable Daleks in the background, but as far as actual working Daleks they have, there's not that many of them. I didn't go back and listen to the making of stuff, so as far as the behind the scenes stuff, I'm based off what I've listened to in other podcasts or read in books.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't like Daleks, and that's on me. This is not a terrible episode. As far as
it's long,
it is long, and it feels. I don't know.
It feels long. It does.
It feels a little longer than it actually is. I mean, some 7-parters can fly by, and I'm looking at you. Series 7 of Doctor Who, Pertwee stuff is great. Those just sail by. This one, at least the first 3 episodes and the last episode, are pretty good because they set up the plot. They do some things that are very different.
Well, I love how they introduce him. We actually don't even see him in the first episode.
Yeah.
We get to see through them when he's coming in to confront Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a great introduction.
It really is. Well, the whole setup for this episode,
And it proves just how much a dick the Doctor can be.
It's really interesting. The Doctor is a very interesting character in this setup. Having just kidnapped 2 people and set them through this kind of ordeal with cavemen, now they appear on this alien planet. Doctor sees a city he wants to go to, and they say, let's leave. And the Doctor's like, no, we can't leave. Our fluid link is broken. The Doctor's like out and out sabotaging the TARDIS in order to go exploring. Hey, Doctor, what if they didn't have Mercury and a fluid link on that alien city? I guess you're stuck on Skaro. Oh well. Yeah, it's an interesting first episode. It's a really good first episode.
It is.
It's the thing about Doctor Who. Sometimes I feel like the first episodes, you can't judge it by a first episode. I'm looking at you, Space Museum. You know what this one reminded me of? This reminded me of the first episode of Ark in Space. With, where the Doctor and Liz and Harry show up on the Nerva station, and they're just looking around, and they're just interacting with the environment. There's no other really characters in it. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, the end of episode 1 ends with them opening the closet and having the wear and fall on them.
Yeah.
Where this one we get the kind of the first image, not really, but of the Daleks, which is.
And then after that he goes into a very long story. I mean, honestly, back then it easily could have been edited down, and I know they were having issues trying to figure out how to finish the season off with, how many episodes, with budget and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
That's why we ended up with a 2-parter at the end. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, they could have easily knocked out 2 episodes and made this so much tighter and a better story.
Well, when you're doing, I think it's 42 episodes a year.
Yeah.
They're not. I'm going to assume the producers, and I can't put my mind in their place. They're not looking at it as being story segments.
Right.
It's a serialized show.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, you got a cliffhanger. That story wraps up with another cliffhanger.
And here's the thing: we also aren't alive back then. We're not British. We don't understand how the rest of television is being presented back then.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff, pieces of the puzzle that we're not a part of, that we don't have the cultural context to draw from.
What I did when I rewatched this one is, instead of watching it, sitting down and watching all 7 episodes, which is what I did the first time I saw it, is I watched it in 2 25-minute episodes, segments. And so, that made the first viewing very enjoyable, because the first 2 parts are really good. It sets up the character. The second 2-parter, I watched the next day, and I think I waited a couple of days after that to watch that. And the more I watch Doctor Who, the more I think a 25-minute episode a day is the way to go. I really enjoy it. There's something really refreshing. I think if were my schedule a little different, I would end every night, with 25 minutes of Doctor Who, and then go to bed, and then, give me something to look forward to before sleep.
You know what I want to try to do is take that first season, since we have most of it now.
Right.
Watch it how they watch it.
Yeah.
1 episode a week.
That's not bad.
See if, something like the Daleks, which is a 7-parter, doesn't become more manageable, more interesting when you watch it a week apart.
Yeah. And again, without, and this can be said with all of classic Doctor Who, there were not really repeats. There were, to some extent, but for the most part, there's not repeats. So,
no, there wasn't.
You watch it a week, you don't have to think about how it's going to fit in an overall story, because they're just going to wipe the tapes anyway. If it wasn't for Ian Levine, this would have been wiped to begin with. So
a long time ago, yeah.
So, okay, so the Doctor and company land on Skaro. They go to explore the city. They're captured by the Daleks. They escape from the Daleks. They realize that they've taken Ian's, the fluid link has been taken from Ian, so they're gonna have to go back to see the Daleks. But first, they got to deal with the Thals, who are a very interesting characterization. It's for the 1960s, and at the time we meet the Thals, I guess we're probably in early 1964. I don't remember when it came out, but ex-warriors, now farmers, just a bunch of...
And the Daleks, which a lot of people don't realize nowadays, were ex-scientists trying to preserve themselves.
Yeah, there's a definite, I almost said War of the Worlds, there's a definite time machine feel to this with the Eloi and the Morlocks.
Yeah.
I know that the Eloi in the book are childlike not only in mental capabilities but also physically.
Yeah.
I know Weena is like a pocket size, not pocket size of course, but she's small. But yeah, the Thals are, we are blonde and gorgeous, perfect specimens.
Yeah.
And you've got the pretty good guys and the ugly monsters, aka the Morlocks, the Morlocks are fairly intelligent but bestial.
But in the original war, it was the Thralls that were the bad guys and the Daleks were the good guys. That's the way they present it.
Well, that's certainly how... So let's talk about the presentation of the Daleks in this episode versus Terry Nation's amazing retcon with Genesis of the Daleks. Not to talk about Genesis of the Daleks,
right.
but we've got a planet that has been thoroughly irradiated.
Yes.
The Thals are barely surviving. They have to have this anti-radiation medicine to keep them alive. The Daleks, they don't even know that they need the radiation to stay alive. They're essentially growing on it. They're bad. It's bad science when you don't realize that the radiation is the thing that's helping you.
And it was also they also needed static electricity in order to move and stuff like that.
Around. Okay. This is where, and I feel like this is kind of, we got this caveman story, and that's presupposition. We can't really know what prehistoric man was like, prehistoric humanity was like. But to go into the future and talk about, what could be, there's actually some, I don't want to say decent science, but there's definitely an attempt to have at least scientific...
Well, it was bumper car science. Honestly,
very much bumper car science.
The way bumper cars work is how the Daleks worked initially.
I know.
Because they could not leave the city because they needed the metal ground to conduct the static electricity, which allowed them to move about.
It's very clever, and it makes the Daleks essentially less of this despotic, hate-filled war machines, not to be confused with the war machines, but to being scientists who are in they don't call them Mark III travel machines in this, but these suits that essentially are keeping, they're survivors. They're not conquerors, they're survivors.
Yeah. And that's what I miss in these modern Dalek stories, is I don't feel like they pay enough homage or to that history of who and what they were initially. But of course, there were the reasons with the metal and the Time Lords and everything that have changed things, but there's just something so, I guess, more simple when it comes to that first story, and then even some of the subsequent ones, I'm messing the word up.
Subsequent?
I guess. The stories that follow were, just like the Cybermen, they developed.
Yeah, no, and we've talked a lot about how much we like early Cybermen.
Yeah, and I really think I like these early stories far more than the modern ones. But there have been some really great modern ones as well.
Sure.
But I don't know, there's just something about, those first tellings. Like, even when we talk about the Angels. Their first appearance, absolutely brilliant, they're great. But when you start using them more and more...
It's diminishing returns.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think anyone expected the Daleks to be as popular as they were. Terry Nation certainly wasn't thinking that they were going to, this is going to be the thing that actually made him a rich man.
Sidney Newman never guessed it. But something, I wonder if Verity didn't know there was the potential there.
It's possible. This is a character creation that I've never read the scripts to see how the Daleks are described, but it's Ray Cusick who's actually created the description. I don't know if Terry Nation's original scripts had the Daleks' distinct speech patterns in it. If he just said, the Daleks, they need static electricity, they're in these robot suits, it could have been anything. Without Ray Cusick's design, it might not have taken off.
I do think that there was some sort of design aspect, because if you look at the Japanese book covers for some Doctor Who novels, they just based it off the descriptions that they were given. And they are still, of course, their versions are almost look like Weeble Wobbles with the eye stalk, but I mean, they still sort of have that shape.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Those Japanese covers are amazing.
They're amazing.
They're
I would love to buy posters of them and just hang them on my wall.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. If I had wall space, that would be a cool thing to have. I'm trying to think of what else to talk about. You got the pacifist dolls. You get them to come and okay. I can't remember. Is it episode 5 or 6 where they just have to cross the cavern? Admittedly, I think that's
the episode. That is all they do.
The entire episode. That is certainly the low point of this story. And that's all we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
They take an episode to cross it. I imagine in the 1960s a futuristic world setting where, you could fall to your death would have been fairly exciting.
Yeah.
We've seen it done. It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
So there we go. And then the Thalls defeat the Daleks. Yay. Barbara gets a very interesting offer to stay from Ganatus, which have you listened to? Is it the mutant phase? The mutant phase. The Big Finish audio of the mutant phase.
Maybe.
I think it's part 1 or part 2 of the Dalek Empire series. It's in the early 20s. It's like
yes, I would have listened to it.
So I don't want to give away too much, but there's a character named Ganatus who I think is a Thal. And as I was rewatching this going, hey, I wonder if it's the same character. I haven't done the research yet. It would be interesting to see if after the Doctor leaves, if Ganatus kind of takes up. But they don't mention the earlier adventure, so probably not. He's surprised to see the Doctor, so maybe not. Maybe it's just Ganatus is a very common name. I have recently, in my Dungeons & Dragons campaign, coming up with authentic character names for NPCs is really difficult sometimes. So I just wrote a list of Doctor Who character names.
Nice.
So my D&D party, big nerd, sorry. My D&D party has saved young Adric, who is the son of Baron Irongron, from a cavern of goblins. Ganatus has shown up, a couple other things. So anyway, that's completely non sequitur, but there you go.
So how would you rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 5 TARDISes?
1 to 5 TARDISes, about a 3. I think it's probably even deserving of a 3.5, but I just don't like the Daleks. So for me...
That's a really high rating for you.
Yeah.
When it involves the Daleks.
Well, yeah. So here's the thing. This is their first story, so they can only go down from here. No, it's not true, because there's some really good Dalek stories. I find that the Dalek stories I find even remotely watchable for me are the ones where I don't want to say drastically change, because again, that would mean that the evolution of the Daleks and Daleks in Manhattan would be a good story. And it's not. It's a terrible story. That's a negative 20.
Are you saying the black and white ones?
No, because the Chase is a terrible story as well. The Chase is the example where...
Is that a Dalek one?
It is.
I don't think I've seen that one yet.
It's a multiple-parter where the Daleks show up on the Mary Celeste, they fight Dracula and Frankenstein.
No, I have not seen this one.
They're on the planet Iridius, which is an arid planet, and they find fish. It's the Daleks get a time machine and chasing the Doctor. It's a Scooby-Doo. They're chasing through the hallways. It's basically the Doctor Who version of that.
What's the one with the meddling monk and Steven and the space agent who ends up dying at the end of it?
Daleks Master Plan.
Master Plan, yeah.
Yeah.
God, I wish we had that. That is just such just listening to it.
Listening to parts of it. It definitely has its moments. Sarah Kingdom certainly is very impressive in that one.
Yeah.
So the Daleks can be, and I find that when the earlier episodes are where we kind of introduced via Davros or just paging through kind of scripts of power and evil, the cursory, those ones I kind of like, but as the Daleks move forward as nations, I think Whitaker wrote something about with a couple episodes with the Daleks, and those are pretty good. But anyway.
Well, just say when you're talking about that, because I know you like Dalek.
I do. I like the Dalek episode.
What I found out is that is actually based on a Big Finish audio.
It is Jubilee.
Yes, I cannot wait to get to that episode and listen to it.
I just finished listening to it a couple of days ago.
Also, now you're actually ahead of me now on those.
I have not been listening to all of them in order.
Okay.
I have thoroughly fallen in love with Evelyn Smythe, and I've just basically been waiting till you get to Doctor Who and the Pirates. Anyway, so how would you rate this episode out of...
About the same, about a 3. Because it's introducing something that's going to last a long time. And honestly, if it was 2 episodes shorter, it would definitely get a higher rating on my...
Oh, well, that can be said with almost every episode,
But no, it's a solid episode, and if you're interested in the history of Doctor Who, and at all, I mean, you need to watch this.
Yeah, I agree.
And if I remember correctly, I'm not sure if the new version of Beginning in Time, which is what this is, the box set is that this is in, at least some of the WAM or VAM in the original box set, which I have, is great. And, you know, it talks a lot about this stuff. And if you get a chance to see Dalek Mania, which is on Netflix, watch it. It'll let you know just how important the Daleks were to Doctor Who as Doctor Who was to the Daleks.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
so there we go. Hey, we've reviewed a Classic Who episode for the first time in a really, really long time. You want to talk about some Big Finish audios?
No, I think we should do that the next time, because I mean we have taken a lot of time up, because there are a few things I want to say right before we wrap this up. We're almost on our 4th anniversary of Doctor Who, of Gallifrey Pirate Radio, closing on that 200th episode, which is kind of cool now. I could see it, you know, it's 20 episodes away, but I could see it.
Sure.
We have some really cool stuff coming up. So this is GPR signing off. Until next time, peace.